What if the legend of vampires, creatures of darkness, immortality, and bloodlust, was never just a nightmare woven through centuries of fear, but the aftermath of a real virus, a biological mutation the modern world accidentally uncovered, and then hastily buried? And if that's true, why would the Church, the institution that guards the most sacred secrets of human history, choose silence? Perhaps what they fear isn't the monster, but the moment humanity realizes it was never just a myth. Welcome to Veil of Mystery, where we don't tell fairy tales, we trace the forgotten paths of forbidden truths. Here, every question might lead to a truth no one dares to name. If you're drawn to unexplained mysteries, hidden archives, and theories that challenge your faith and rewrite history, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss a single journey through locked doors and sealed vaults. And now, let us step together into a mystery no one dares to touch. Why is the Church afraid that the vampire virus might actually be real? Part 1, From Legend to Biological Virus. We've heard more than enough about vampires. From the dusty pages of Gothic novels to the lifeless eyes on the silver screen of Hollywood. Always depicted as pale-skinned beings, walking through the night, hiding from sunlight, and surviving eternally on human blood. But before they became cultural icons, what were vampires, really? In Eastern European folklore, they were called strigoi, restless spirits that returned from the grave to drink the blood of the living. In the Philippines, manananggal, a creature that split its torso and flew into the night to hunt. In China, jiangshi, a stiff, hopping corpse that sucked life essence through breath. And in ancient Mesopotamia, there was Lilitu, a nocturnal demon who preyed on infants and seduced men in their sleep. The names change. The forms vary. But one detail never does. The thirst for human blood. History records hundreds of strange incidents. Corpses exhumed and staked through the heart. Hearts burned. Bodies bound in iron chains. Entire villages conducting midnight rites to stop the dead from rising again. Modern minds often laugh at such stories. They call it superstition, the panicked response of people who didn't understand bacteria, viruses, or decomposition. But what if the truth isn't so simple? What if those villagers saw something? Something that modern medicine still doesn't dare to acknowledge. A condition unlike anything we've ever known. Not the flu. Not the plague. But a virus that rewrites the human body, halts aging, eliminates the need for sleep or breath, and awakens an instinctive thirst for blood. Modern virologists have given it a quiet name. HV, the human vampiric virus. According to leaked documents, HV doesn't destroy the body. It modifies it, cell by cell, from heart function to muscle structure to brain chemistry. It causes canines to grow into biological tools, capable of injecting an enzyme that numbs pain and prevents clotting. And most dangerously, it doesn't spread like a plague. It selects. Quietly. Precisely. And almost invisibly. This raises a terrifying question. If HV is real, how many of us have already crossed paths with an infected host, without ever knowing it? Because vampires, as we imagine them, don't fly through windows or vanish in clouds of smoke. They don't need to be supernatural. They only need to be efficient. And viruses have always been the most efficient lifeforms ever to exist. Part 2, Infection Process and Biological Transformation. The HV, human vampiric virus, was not born of spells, ancient rituals, or pacts with the devil. It exists like any other virus, invisible, intelligent, and utterly ruthless. It does not enter through mystical night winds. It spreads through blood, through saliva, through a seemingly harmless wound. Or through a kiss that lasts until death. And once inside, it doesn't destroy the immune system like HIV. It takes control of it. HV does not attack the body with brute force. Instead, it reprograms it, cell by cell, from the inside out. It penetrates cell membranes, fuses with genetic machinery, and silently rewrites the fundamental code of life. Stage 1. Deceptive symptoms. Mild fever. Headache. Persistent thirst. Rapid heartbeat. Drowsiness and dizziness. The infected believe they are suffering from nothing more than a seasonal flu. But once those symptoms fade, the real nightmare begins. The body enters a phase known as the vampiric coma. A biological sleep so deep it can easily be mistaken for death. Heartbeat vanishes. Breathing slows to the point of vanishing. Skin turns cold. Muscles seize. Internal organs begin to restructure themselves. Many never wake up. But those who do, are no longer human. Stage 2. Full biological reconstruction. When they awaken, they possess bones harder than steel, yet flexible as water. Muscles entirely shifted to fast-twitch fibers, allowing reaction and motion beyond human capacity. Eyes 10 times more sensitive to light, capable of seeing through total darkness. Elongated, sharpened canines equipped with salivary glands that produce both anesthetic and anticoagulant enzymes. A non-functioning heart, blood circulates through motion, like peristalsis in the intestines. They are no longer living beings in the traditional sense. They are biological machines. A form of silent evolution. The most terrifying trait of HV isn't how it spreads. It's how it chooses. HV cannot infect just anyone. It adapts only to those with the right biological profile, especially between the ages of 18 and 50. Children die. The elderly die. Only a rare few survive, and become cold-blooded predators. From a medical perspective, this is the apex of survival. From an ethical perspective, it is the end of humanity. Did the Church know? In a leaked document from an abandoned monastery in Italy, a handwritten note from a 17th century priest reads, "He did not breathe. Had no pulse. Yet he looked at me. With eyes black as glass, and blood dripping slowly from his teeth." The document was never acknowledged. The Church gave no comment. But weeks later, the entire monastery was sealed off, forever. Perhaps the Church understood that this was not something that could be explained through Scripture. A creature without death. Without soul. Without humanity. Not a demon, but no longer human. A biological deviation that might prove death is not the end, but merely the beginning of another kind of evolution. Part 3. Rewired Mind, the brain of a perfect predator. If the body is a weapon, then the brain is the command center of the predator. And what the HV virus creates is not just a bloodthirsty creature, but a calculating, cold, and ethically detached machine. Once the body completes its transformation, HV shifts its focus to the central command, the central nervous system. Amygdala, the brain region responsible for processing emotion and fear responses, becomes abnormally enlarged. This results in an altered fear response. Instead of panic, the infected respond with targeted focus. Fear is no longer a survival mechanism. It becomes a compass for tracking prey. Meanwhile, the anterior cingulate cortex, the region that governs empathy and impulse control, is almost entirely disconnected. They lose the ability to feel others' pain. No guilt. No remorse. They don't kill out of rage. They kill because it triggers dopamine release. Because hunting becomes a biological pleasure. HV doesn't create mindless killers. It reconfigures the brain to form a high-level intelligence, emotionless, but supremely efficient. Visual cortex expands, enhanced motion detection in darkness. Neural synapses restructure, reaction times far beyond human capacity. Cross-hemisphere brain connectivity increases, allowing rapid language acquisition, behavioral pattern recognition, and complex situational analysis. Unofficial reports note that One subject could recall a sequence of 100 images flashed in under 10 seconds. Another could identify facial expressions from 6 meters away, in darkness. They are no longer human. Not demonic either. But something else entirely, a new form of biological intelligence, visible, immoral, and hyper-intelligent. One strange phenomenon observed in HIV-infected individuals. Memory remains, but emotional connection to those memories vanishes. They can name their parents, lovers, even children. But the recollections feel hollow, clinical, as if reciting their own medical files. The virus preserves logic, and erases everything that makes them vulnerable. They are no longer victims. They are a system, programmed to survive at any cost. And yet, they simulate emotion. They know how to smile. They know how to hold eye contact. They know how to shake your hand. And they know how to make you believe they're still human. But beneath that skin, there is no soul. Only the silence of a brain that has chosen to erase all compassion. Part 4, the Vatican and a fear that cannot be admitted. For over 2,000 years, the Roman Catholic Church has survived war, heresy, revolutions, and countless accusations. But there is one thing the Vatican has always avoided, not heresy, not demons, but an unnameable truth. And the question is, have they known, and chosen silence? In 1710, at the Sant'Agata Monastery near Naples, a handwritten note was discovered. A man was brought in at night. No pulse, no breath. Yet his body showed no signs of decay. Fresh blood on his teeth. He was not dead. He was waiting to awaken. The document was never entered into the official Vatican archives. The monastery has since been closed. No one is allowed near the crypt beneath it. The official reason? Unstable architecture. But if you look into engineering reports, infrastructure maps, or renovation requests, you'll find no record of structural damage ever reported. If the HIV virus is real, then it isn't just a health threat. It's a theological paradox. Because if a person does not die, does not ascend to heaven or descend into hell, but simply lies there, while their cells silently restructure, then where is their soul? If immortality doesn't come from God, but from a virus, then what defines a human being? The Church teaches that the soul is immutable, the one thing that cannot be touched. But HIV doesn't take the soul. It simply keeps the body alive, without emotion, without love, without guilt. A living shell. A mind reprogrammed. Not a demon. Not a man. Something in between. Many scholars, clergy, and virologists have brushed against the edges of this mystery, only to disappear from public records. A French scientist once published an analysis of a strange enzyme found in a corpse that had not decomposed. 3 months later, he withdrew from academia, refused all interviews. A Polish priest recorded a confession from a creature that had not eaten in 40 days and survived 3 complete exsanguinations. The tape was never released. The monastery where he worked is now a restricted area, exclusively accessible to the College of Cardinals. We aren't taught about these events in history classes. We only know this. There are places in the Vatican where no one is allowed to enter. Doors locked, not to keep something dangerous out, but to keep something that should not awaken, inside. For centuries, the Church defined good and evil. Angels, light. Demons, darkness. But what if a creature exists beyond those 2 poles? Not born of God's will, nor as a result of sin, but simply as a natural biological variant, a virus capable of rewriting life itself? Would the Church ever dare admit that not every story in the Bible is under their control? No priest has the authority to baptize a being that no longer understands sin. No prayer can reach a brain that no longer knows who or what God is. Not because they don't know, but because they know too well. They fear that if the truth is revealed, religion will have to rewrite its very definition of the soul, of life, and of salvation. They fear that science will do what Scripture never could: explain the vampire, without invoking God. And sometimes, silence is the only way to protect faith from the truth. Part 5. Why are vampires afraid of the cross? For centuries, one image has repeatedly surfaced in vampire legends. Vampires fear the cross. But why? Some say it's about faith. Others claim it's the divine power of God against evil. But what if the answer lies not in theology, but in neuroscience? What if the geometry of the cross, its perpendicular lines, symmetry, and sharp angles, interferes with the brain structure of a creature infected with the HIV virus? According to some analyses of leaked documents, infected individuals exhibit anomalies in the visual cortex. Specifically, neurons responsible for processing 90-degree angles appear to misfire, causing a form of neurological overload when exposed to square shapes under direct light. This phenomenon has been informally named the crucifix glitch. When a vampire looks directly at a clearly defined right-angled shape, especially under frontal lighting, it can trigger dizziness, disorientation, visual hallucinations, neural seizures, even total cognitive collapse within seconds. What they fear isn't faith. What they fear is the physical shape of the cross, literally. This leads to a bold hypothesis. Could it be that, over centuries, humanity subconsciously developed religious architecture as a form of neurological defense? Churches are built symmetrically. Altars shaped as rectangles. Crosses with a sharp perpendicular intersection at the center. Stained glass, splitting light into sharply defined geometric patterns. All of these create environments loaded with geometric stimuli the mutated vampire brain cannot process. It's not the prayer. It's not the holy water. It's the light, refracted through a symbol designed to paralyze them. If you look closely, vampires in folklore are never found in city centers. They always dwell in ruined monasteries, abandoned quarries, decaying barns, or caves, where shapes are distorted and irregular. In broken architecture, where right angles collapse into chaos, they feel at ease. But inside square walls, under symmetrical ceilings, with harsh fluorescent lights, the mutated brain can no longer hide in the visual. And so they retreat. In many old stories, glowing crosses repel vampires. People believed it was a miracle. But that light, in practical terms, triggers their malfunctioning visual cortex. When a beam hits the perpendicular intersection just right, the HIV-infected brain reacts as if electrocuted. It's not magic. It's a neurological seizure caused by a structural flaw. If this theory is true, then it means, through religion, humans have unknowingly created a geometric defense system. We don't just build churches to pray. We build spaces vampires cannot physically enter. We wear crosses not just as faith, but as neurological weapons against a creature that has surpassed humanity, yet is trapped by its own brain design. And that might be the final reason the Vatican can never admit the HIV virus exists. Because if it does, then the cross is no longer just a symbol of faith. It becomes physical proof that we once fought something very real. Part 6, Hibernation, the life cycle, predatory rhythm, and silent survival of the immortals. If you think these creatures roam city streets every night, feeding on victims and leaving trails like in the movies, you're wrong. They don't need to kill to survive every day. They only need to kill at the right time. And when the moment isn't right, they sleep. The HIV virus is not just a tool of destruction. It's a mechanism for survival regulation, much like bears hibernate, seeds wait for rain, or how HIV lies dormant in DNA. When the environment lacks human blood, or when the risk of detection becomes too great, HIV activates a biological failsafe, hibernation. The entire biological system enters a suspended animation. Heart rate ceases. Respiration, nearly undetectable. Brain activity drops to an almost flat electrobiological state. Cells operate at minimum capacity, just enough to prevent decay. And that being, the one we call a vampire, disappears from the world. But it doesn't die. In ancient crypts across Europe, there have been discoveries of bodies that do not decompose, do not freeze, show no signs of insect intrusion, and still contain hemoglobin in isolated blood vessels. Some medieval priests recorded what they saw in words of terror. He lay still, like stone. But his eyes had not yet closed. Today, many monasteries, churches, and even sections of old European subway tunnels are sealed off, fenced, and never officially explained. Could it be that these aren't corpses being protected, but biological machines waiting for the right moment to reawaken? HIV doesn't allow the infected to kill excessively. Because if humans disappear, the blood supply vanishes. Instead of spreading like a pandemic, HIV evolves through mathematical restraint. A single vampire could survive decades on just a few liters of blood per cycle. Afterward, it returns to hibernation, and only awakens when human pheromone levels spike, environmental temperatures become ideal, or another infected being wakes it up. It's not just a predatory strategy. It's an ecological system. History has recorded periods that seem erased. No diaries. No letters. No medical records. No folktales or oral tradition. We call them the Dark Ages. But what if those were periods where hibernation was disturbed? Moments in history where they woke up too early and left behind only a faint scar in collective memory. Vampires don't need to create mass slaughter. They don't need to turn the world into hell. They just need to persist. In darkness. In silence. In crypts beneath cities no one remembers why they were built. And when the time is right, they open their eyes. Not because they are hungry, but because the world has finally forgotten them long enough. Part 7. Evolved virus or engineered tool. When biology surpasses both morality and faith. The HIV virus doesn't behave like a conventional virus. It doesn't merely spread, it selects. It doesn't destroy, it restructures. And rather than leaving behind death, it creates an entirely new form of existence. Inhuman, ungodly, and beyond moral boundaries. The question is, was this truly a random product of natural evolution? Or was it engineered to serve a purpose we've never dared to imagine? In biology, mutations usually lead to dysfunction. Cancer is one example. Congenital diseases are another. But HIV is different. It doesn't create chaos. It creates efficiency. Muscles are restructured. Bones reinforced with micromineralization. Neural connections reorganized for faster reflexes, language acquisition, and combat. The digestive system stripped of all unnecessary function, retaining only the ability to process blood. This is not a disease. It's a new operating system for the human body. And no operating system appears by chance. There are three major, though unofficial, hypotheses found in leaked notes from black site research facilities. 1. The retrograde evolution theory. HIV is a relic from ancient biology, a forgotten survival mechanism from humanity's earliest roots, now accidentally reawakened. 2. The prehistoric intervention theory. HIV did not originate on Earth, but was a form of biotechnological implantation from an alien civilization, inserted into human DNA as a survival experiment under extreme environmental conditions. 3. The erased artificial design theory. HIV was created during a secret Cold War bioengineering project, designed to produce a super soldier. But when the results spiraled beyond control, the entire program was shut down, or so they thought. If the HIV virus is the result of design, where is it in the Bible? There are no scriptures that mention it. No saints who pray for it. No angels dispatched to fight it. It does not belong to heaven. Nor does it rise from hell. It is the third thing. A form of godless life that requires no miracles, no divine will, no sacred purpose. And if that's true, the church faces a crisis never seen before. A being without a soul, but still alive. It shatters the three pillars of human civilization: medicine, religion, ethics. Medicine cannot cure what doesn't harm the body. Religion cannot redeem what feels no sin. Ethics cannot judge what no longer feels. The HIV virus rewrites everything we know about what it means to be human. If you can no longer love, no longer regret, no longer fear, but still think, still learn, still persist, are you still human? You are a biological machine, designed to feed, to hibernate, to compute, to endure. And perhaps the worst part is, you no longer remember that you once were human. Part 8. When faith collapses, what remains for us to call truth? We've walked this journey together. From ridiculed legends, to buried medical files. From monasteries sealed in darkness, to a virus capable of rewriting the very definition of life. From the cross as a symbol, to the cross as a neurological weapon. And from the simple question, do vampires exist? We've arrived at something deeper, and far more unsettling. If everything we call a monster is simply a form of life excluded from theology, then who decided what counts as sacred? In a world where a virus can turn humans into something entirely new, where the church remains silent as biology surpasses the boundaries of scripture, where science dares not admit what it may have once created, what are we left with? No sanctity. No salvation. No absolute morality. Only one thing remains. A truth that doesn't need belief. A truth that doesn't ask for permission to exist. It simply is. A silent truth. It does not breathe. It does not speak. But it waits. Always waits. You may have never seen a vampire. You may never believe in the HIV virus. But when you walk past a crumbling building, an abandoned monastery, or a sealed underground vault with no ventilation, and you feel a gaze, unsure if real or imagined, that is not your imagination. It is your biological memory warning you of what faith tried to erase from history. Something the Vatican will never admit. Something that needs no curse, no miracle, no devil. Only blood. You've been watching Veil of Mystery. If you want to continue exploring the secrets history never wanted you to know, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because sometimes, the most terrifying thing isn't what we don't understand. It's what we've already understood, but can no longer bear to believe.